The conference was called the 16th World Congress of the International Federation for Theatre Research. The International Federation for Theatre Research is the largest international organization for theatre studies, and every 4 years the World Congress takes place.
I welcome you here. I'm very pleased that you have found your way to Munich and to our university. I am aware that you are expecting a succession of distinguished speakers, as is the normal tradition when a conference is opened. Mayors, vice presidents, deans, and so forth. Now, in the light of the current financial crisis, we have decided to economize. I am pleased to introduce 3 speakers who will say a few words of greeting. First is the Dean of the Faculty of History and the Arts. The second is the Chairman of the Department of Theatre Studies. And our third speaker is, of course, the host of the present conference. Now, as they are all one and the same person, you can see that the Ludwig-Maximilians-Universität is very much committed to lean management and an increasing efficiency of human resources.
The aim of this Congress was to explore the question of modernity from various perspectives.
Modernity refers to the multifaceted processes set in motion during the Enlightenment, affecting political, juridical, social, and economic life. This refers, of course, to the transition from feudal to industrial societies or post-industrial societies that transformed life in Europe and, in its imperialist and colonialist variations, affected most cultures around the world. Modernity can be both an emancipatory force and a cudgel to bludgeon one's ideological opponents.
The title was Cultures of Modernity, and we really wanted to stress the plural in the word cultures. This means we want to ask the question, how has this great project, or this great, in inverted commas, project modernity, played out in theatre across the world and over the past 100 years? And we were fortunate to be able to attract many participants from all over the world. We had participants from 48 different countries. We had several hundred paper proposals, and in the end we had around about 600 participants. So I think, looking back, we can certainly say that we got both the geographical coverage and I think also a splendid thematic coverage of this very large and complex question.
As I look around the room, my colleagues, whom I know, many of whom I know, whose material conditions of performing the discipline in their own contexts I'm also familiar with, I also note in them the multiple modernities of play, some challenging the others, some resisting the others, and all in highly variable economic and social contexts. The modernity of the urban landscape around us and the history embedded in the visible order of the modern city of Munich is but one modernity that speaks for itself, but does not speak for all.
The question and the concept of modernity is a very complex one. And for that reason, we divided the term into what we called the 3 M's. Modernity, modernism, and modernization.
Good evening. My name is Birgit Wiens, and I have the honor to welcome you also to this panel on curating, on practices of curating and the public sphere.
Most conferences, and our conference was no exception, are structured around a series of keynote lectures. These are longer lectures delivered by leading figures in the field, and we were very happy to be able to welcome excellent scholars from different backgrounds to hold keynote lectures. The first lecture was delivered by Professor Erika Fischer-Lichter from the Free University of Berlin. Professor Fischer-Lichter is one of the leading international scholars of theatre studies, and she has also just set up a new institute for intercultural theatre research, which is known as Interweaving Theatre Cultures, and she was able to, in a sense, outline this new research program in her keynote.
These few examples should suffice to demonstrate the impossibility of providing an unequivocal answer to the question of the beginning of modern theatre. What do we mean when we use the term modern theatre anyway? Clearly, it means something different when applied to Mayhol's Baraganchik than to Tsumuchi's Lortzhaus. And yet, in both cases, it makes sense to use the term.
She was followed by Khalid Amin from Morocco. Professor Amin is a leading scholar from the Middle East who has become really a very important figure in our own association because he is involved with the new Arabic Theatre Working Group, and in his lecture he was able to discuss some of these central questions of modernity from the perspective of the Middle East.
In 1950, the colonial administration decided to stick its own again in this emerging theatre of resistance, with the intention to reproduce an American copy of Theaterwissenschaft München.
Another keynote was delivered by Helen Gilbert from the Royal Holloway College, London. Helen Gilbert is actually an Australian, and she too is now coordinating a multidisciplinary research project funded by the EU on the question of indigeneity and performance. Her project and her lecture focus very much on the question of how indigenous peoples are representing themselves through performance and being represented in performance.
It tends towards connection rather than rupture, reaching beyond the formal boundaries of performance towards communities and individuals who may be dispersed across the globe. And specifically for the concepts that are central to today's paper, it retools the mechanisms of salvage, not as personal bricolage, but as a performance practice that restores material objects to some kind of embeddedness in sound, movement, smell, space, time, and timing, radiating that tiny quantum of cultural energy they always contain.
We were very gratified at this conference to see that over a quarter of the delegates were doctoral students, and this is the highest percentage we've ever had of doctoral students attending such a conference, and I think this augurs very well for the future, that the Federation is now a very mixed federation in terms of its age structure, and I think this is a very optimistic perspective for us all. Although it was a very, very busy conference in terms of the numbers of papers given and discussions had both in and out of the seminar rooms, a conference, of course, is never complete without a social program of some kind. And we did our best to, I think, present Munich from its best side. We offered a number of different excursions and outings for the... a very important event for us was a theatre performance in the Prinzregententheater, where a group of former students of the Department of Theatre Studies here in Munich got together again to perform for delegates their almost legendary production of Kurt Schwitter's Ursonate. This we thought was an excellent choice because the text of Ursonate does not consist of any known language, but of a series of letters, sounds, which were then, I think, wonderfully directed and coordinated around the context of a Bavarian beer garden. And so I think this also, I think, was an excellent contribution to the social program.
See the sort of houses that academics usually cannot afford to live in, but would like to. This is what Leitchtown is famous for. It's castles, sailing boats. Okay, the band is called Schotter's Jazzhaufen, and they'll be entertaining us tonight.
Highlights and lowlights of the conference. We all have our own. Certainly the highlight for me was attending some of the New Scholars panels, and particularly the New Scholars reception. For me it was probably one of the most interesting and stimulating evenings, and it wasn't the wine that did it. It was because I met some really interesting young scholars, and this is the biggest collection of young scholars that we've ever had at IFTR. And so before I hand over to David Whitten, I just want to add my personal thanks to Chris Baum for organising this absolutely amazingly difficult and complex organisation into a conference. It was superbly organised, certainly I felt so, and I just want to pay tribute to him and his entire team whom I met earlier this year. They did such a wonderful job, from website right through to banquet on a boat. So I just personal thank you to all of you. But I'd like to don't applaud yet, because I want to hand over to David Whitten, who's got some things to say and to give.
But that does mean that Chris has given sort of part of 7 years of his life to planning this. So the first person I want to thank on your behalf, delving into my little box of tricks, is Chris himself. So Chris, on behalf of the Federation. Every time you need water for yourself, for a speaker, it's there. Whenever and the water, the little drinks, everything has been seen to. The quality of design, the information, I think it's been fantastic. And so I really would like them to ask the whole delivery team, the people from the department, the student helpers, the on-site staff, if they'd all please come and take their final bow. Thank you very much.
How does it go on from here? Well, the International Federation for Theatre Research holds a conference every year, and next year the group will be reconvening in Osaka in early August, and the year after that we will be going to Santiago de Chile, and we are very happy that the Federation will be going to both these countries, because the Federation has never yet held a conference in either in Japan or in South America.